Hi everyone, today is what is today? Oh my gosh. Today is Wednesday, April 1st, 2026, and I am going to be giving my testimony. Now, I know that it's April Fool's Day or whatever, but this is no joke. This is all factual. You can go and look up the public record and everything. It's all true. But I just wanted to give my testimony and just talk. And yeah, this will be one of my very first videos. I'm not new to YouTube or whatever, but I definitely been around the way. And I just want to go ahead and, upload this and then start a journey. So yeah, I've been pushed to do so. And God has been telling me to make a video and talk, so this is what I'm doing here now. But anyway, November 19th, 2019, I had got shot in my back, and I was shot at 3 times by someone named Hameen Roberson. I was doing a Lyft ride, and I was it was a little bit after midnight when that me being shot happened. But yeah, I was given the Lyft ride, and he decided when I dropped him off at his destination that he wanted to carjack me. Now, rewind, I picked him up from like a secluded parking lot. And it was the dead of night. But yeah, and then he asked me to drop him off at a gas station near like a bus stop or something. And I said, okay, and when he got into my car, like, he wasn't talking. He just was really quiet or whatever. And yeah, so I dropped him, or tried to drop him off at the gas station. It was a Citgo gas station off of, I can't remember the street, but it's in Stone Mountain. So he said, when I got there to the gas station with him, he was like, get out the car. And, I don't think it was a gun pointed at me at that point, but he told me to just get out the car. And then I just screamed, and I was like, no. So it must have had been a gun pointed at me. My memory is kind of distorted because, like, it's something that I've been trying to get over for so many years. But anyway, I told him no, and I put that car in drive, and I drove it to God knows where. It eventually ended up going into a ditch, and I wrecked the car. And he ended up getting injured. He got a gash on his hand. So while I'm accelerating the car and going forward, he's shooting at me. And he shot 3 times, and one of the bullets landed in my back, near my spinal cord, near the neck area. So, yeah, the car wrecked after, and then he gashed his hand, and then he left out the car, and he went on his way. He ran away or whatever. He didn't shoot at me again or whatever. Now, me sitting in the car, still as it wrecked and everything, the airbags deployed. The car didn't get totaled, but it definitely wrecked. I drove it into a ditch. I had no clue where the car was going. I just drove it into no man's land. I did not care. I just knew that if he was going to kill me or try to shoot me or whatever, we was just all going to die that day. That was my whole attitude. If you want to try to take my life, then we just all going to die that day. And a lot of people say to me, well, Mercedes, like, you really shouldn't have, you really should have just given him the car, just gave it up, But my whole attitude was, I had a lot to do. Like, I was getting ready to move into an apartment the next day, like a brand new apartment, mind you. I had a lot to do. Like, I had a lot riding, and I just felt like, how dare you, the audacity, and yeah, I wrecked that car. I did not care. But anyway, he ran away and I started screaming, and my voice had no projection because I was starting to lose a lot of blood from the gunshot wound. My voice literally had no projection. I sounded like a baby bird just screaming out, trying to get help. It was crazy, but yeah, I was wearing eyeglasses. My eyeglasses fell off my face, from the impact of the crash. And my phone had fell on the car floor or whatever, so I couldn't locate where my phone was at. Fortunately, I had OnStar in my car, and I pressed the OnStar button, and I let the guy know, like, hey, I've been in a wreck. Please call somebody to come help me. Like, somebody tried to rob me. They tried to do this, that, and the fourth. And I'm pretty sure if I could get it, I would be able to get the call recording from when I called 911 that day. I'm pretty sure they still have a record of it. This happened in DeKalb County, Georgia. But yeah, I just told the OnStar man when he answered, I said, hey, can you please call somebody to come and help me? I got shot and the car's been wrecked and everything. And he was like, yeah, I'll call somebody. I'll call emergency services. And maybe like 5 minutes later, it didn't take long at all. The police came up, and then shortly after that, the ambulance came up. When the police walked up to me, they had their flashlights and everything. And I remember it was a black truck type of police car, almost maybe like a detective undercover car. But it was like, I don't remember like sirens or anything like that. But I do remember like cars pulling up to me. But I just remember a really big black truck, like a SUV pulling up. And then a detective walked up to me, a cop, and he was like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, like, he shot at me. I got shot and I'm wrecked, like, I'm hurt. And he checked me out and everything. He saw the blood coming out of my back, and he was like, yeah, we got to get her elevated and everything. And I was in complete shock. I didn't feel the pain. Now, when I did get shot, it was just like the noise of the gunfire like made my ears ring, and it lasted for so long. It was like the longest, like screeching, like loud sound, and like time just kind of slowed down in that instance. But the actual, bullet going in my back, I didn't register that it was there. You know what I mean? I just had, I guess, so much adrenaline going through in my body that I didn't understand. Yeah, you've been shot. Okay, now, the ambulance finally pulled up, and it was a Grady ambulance. And, I just think that was a gift from God, because Grady is the #1 hospital in Atlanta who treats victims for gunshot wounds. So, I knew I would be saved. I knew I would be safe. And I was very grateful for that, right? So, I got, they put me on a stretcher. They put this neck brace around my neck. And it was a black gentleman, and it was a young lady that was driving the ambulance. And it was so crazy because she was like, I gotta get her there. I gotta get her there fast and everything. They drove me off. And I think before I left the police, I told them, I said, hey, please get my deposit because I'm supposed to move into my apartment tomorrow. Like, that was like the number one thing on my mind. It's just so crazy. Like, you had to worry about your life, girl. Like, ain't nobody thinking about no moving into no apartment, you know? But yeah, I end up on the ambulance, and then everything kicked in. I started feeling all this pain. And I said, I'm in so much pain, you know. I'm hurt. Like, please give me some drugs or something. I just feel all this pain. And he was like, okay, I'm going to take care of you. He said, I'm going to cut your clothes open because when you get to the hospital, they're going to start surgery on you. And I said, okay. And he's like, is there anybody I can call for you? Do you have family, friends out here? I said, call my mama, you know, call my mama. And she was only one, you know. But ironically, when I told him to call my mama, my dad was on his way to Georgia. He was moving to the state the same day that I had got shot. So when I made it to the hospital, I found him there, and I was like, oh, wow, he's here. How the frick did he get here so fast? Didn't even know he was moving there. So, yeah, it's funny how things work out. But anyway, I'm in the ambulance, and I said, yeah, call my mama. And he was like, okay, so what's her number? I say the number, and he said, okay, I'm going to call her and let her know that you on the way to Grady. I said, okay. And then he put this thing on my face, I guess, for me to get oxygen. And I was still conscious when they took me off the stretcher. And I remember the lady that was driving the ambulance, she was like, yes, I made it 10 minutes. She's like, go and get her off. And the guy, he got me off the stretcher, and then they took me into the hospital, you know, obviously on the emergency side. And the last thing I remember is he said, everything's going to be okay. And I said, thank you. And I didn't feel nothing. Like, they put something else on my face, like the little oxygen thing. But literally after they put that on my face, I kid you not, I fell asleep. I don't know if they put me on gas. I don't know what it was exactly, but I fell asleep. I don't remember nothing after getting off the stretcher. I mean, not getting off, but getting into the hospital and, you know, them putting that mask on my face. I fell asleep. I don't know what happened. I don't recall the surgery. I don't recall anybody working on me, doing anything. I don't know. But it all worked out because when I woke up, the very first person I saw was my aunt, Maxine, and then I saw my mom, and then after that I saw my dad, and then I saw my brother. But I believe I saw my brother before my dad. And I remember my brother holding my hand. I remember my mom holding my hand. And just thinking about it, getting me emotional. Wow, I'm getting fucked up right now. Excuse my language. But God want me to tell my story. And they was all there, you know, and supporting me. And it was hard. Like, I couldn't move my arm, my right arm. I couldn't move it for like 6 months straight. I had to go to physical therapy because I sustained a brachial plexus injury from the gunshot wound, and we learned that it was a hollow point bullet that I had got shot with. And to this day, the bullet is still in my back. It cannot be removed because it expanded, and the doctors at Grady decided to not remove it because it would be too invasive. So invasive to the point where if they did try to remove it, all the particles and everything, it could potentially touch my spinal cord. And if you mess with that nerve of the spinal cord, you could become paralyzed. So they decided not to move it. And so it's still there, and I'm grateful to those people at Grady. I'm grateful to the doctors and everybody that helped me. As a result of me being shot like that, I lost a lot of blood. I had to get 3 blood transfusions. My heart rate, it wouldn't stay down. Like, my heart rate was always so high, but when they gave me like blood transfusions, it started to get stable. Yeah, it was just a lot. It was really a lot. I stayed in the hospital for a total of 2 weeks. I was on hydrocodone. I was on Percocets. I was on all these drugs just trying to stay out of pain, Then, like, the day after seeing, like, all my family, the detectives come and talk to me and they say, hey, can you identify who shot you? Can you identify who shot you? And I identified him. And I was so mad. Because I'm like, I had my life in front of me. And it's just like, you got to think about how, like, life can just go from you in a split second. You just living your life doing you. And somebody come and interrupt your shit. Like, they have no regard for what you got going on, And it just changed the whole trajectory of my life. Like, for a long time, after the incident, I couldn't drive at night. I was so scared. Like, I remember my sister tried to take me driving at night, and, I was behind the wheel and everything, and I just started crying. I was like, I can't do it, Because all this anxiety, all this PTSD came, and I just felt bad. I just felt like, I can't do this. I can't do it. Down the line, I conquered that. I've started driving at night, and I'm okay. I can do it now. But in the beginning, it was very difficult. It was very difficult. So fast forward, we get to out the hospital. I move in with my dad to his house, and I'm just rehabilitating. I'm going to physical therapy and everything, and I'm staying strong. Like, I'm having this mindset that I'm gonna get through this. I'm gonna be able to move my arm. I'm gonna be able to do things as I normally did. I'm telling you, when I first got out, trying to write, it was like I was writing like somebody in pre-K. My handwriting was so bad. It was so bad. But I still had the mindset. I said, I'm going to get through this. As hard as it is, I'm going to get through this. I have to move forward with my life. And I was grateful to the Most High because he spared me. You know what I mean? Literally spared me against all odds. And I just find it to be so significant and rewarding. And I'm just really, really, really grateful because, yeah, my life was flipped upside down, but God was faithful to me, and he had mercy on my soul because I was not doing things by the word, by how I should be living, okay? So if I had died, I'm pretty sure I would have got judgment, and he would have been like, you haven't done well. You know what I mean? I can't come on in. And that would have sucked, but he definitely gave me a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, so many chances that I didn't even realize at life, okay? Things that is unforeseen, things that I didn't realize was happening. God spared me. I call him Yahweh. He spared me. And I'm grateful for that. I really am. So, yeah, I'm doing physical therapy. I'm getting better. I'm starting to rehabilitate. I'm telling you, 6 months later is when I was able to finally start moving my arm and, getting things back to normal. And then another 6 months is where it just became good for me. And I was able to actually, do things as if I hadn't been shot. Now, to this day, I still deal with chronic nerve pain. I still deal with muscle spasms. I still deal with the trauma of sustaining a gunshot wound to the back. So I'm pretty sure we all would like to know what happened to the guy that shot you. Well, it's so crazy because I remember I told you he had got a gash on his hand after the car accident. So he ended up going to Grady himself to get his arm, not his arm, his hand bandaged up because it was a pretty severe wound. And I believe that the gash happened from him holding the gun and me in the car jolting forward. And that gun is just going it's going to jack you up if you ain't holding it correctly. And then any impact in the car, if you hit something hard, then, that will result in some type of injury. So anyway, he checked into Grady to get that stitched up. They ended up, the detectives of DeKalb County, they ended up finding those records and found out that he checked himself into the hospital to get that stitched up because, he was injured or whatever. He tells the police when they find him at his house that he sustained that injury from playing basketball. But the type of injury did not coincide with a basketball type of ordeal. So that story didn't add up. They ended up arresting him, booking him and everything. And I went through so many court cases, I went through 3 judges, I believe. And we finally came to a sentencing. It was, I believe his name is Brian Lake. He finally sentenced him. He was sentenced to 40 years. He took a plea, but he had to serve more time for some of the things that he had been doing in jail. So he was acting up in jail, so he got another 20 years on top of that. So for my case, he got 20 years, and then another 20 years from what he was doing in jail. Then when he gets out, it's going to be another 20 years probation. So if he ever fuck up, he'll be back in jail. I have no mercy or no sympathy for him. However, I have forgiven him. That was very, very hard for me to do. But in order for me to complete my healing, I had to forgive that fool. And I did. When he did this, he was 21 years old. I remember his defense attorney saying, his frontal lobe wasn't developed, so he was not in his right mind. And I just said, that's a sorry excuse. You know what I mean? Because people still know right from wrong. And what he did to me was very egregious. So I don't want to hear that. But yeah, you have to give it to defense attorneys because that's their job. You know what I'm saying? If I wanted to be defended in a case, I would need a defense attorney. So as much as I hated that woman, she was doing her job. And, whatever. I just leave it at that. But I say all this to say, I say all this to say that God will bring you through, okay? You just have to have faith. You have to have faith. And as egregious as his situation was, I do feel like everything happens for a reason. And because this happened to me, I built a better bond with my father. I was able to learn a couple of things. I was able to take a break from life. I was able to spend more time with God. It was a lot that came out of this situation. So as much as you might feel like this is horrible, like why did it have to be me? What you gotta know is somebody probably got it 10 times worse than you. And you have to understand that God is faithful and he's going to take care of you. And you don't have to worry about nothing. So, yeah, that's my testimony of what happened to me when I got shot. I might do a part 2 and kind of explain more in detail about the court cases, who this person was, what I was doing, what I was trying to do in my life. I might show pictures of the wound on my back. I don't know, really, y'all, but I just wanted to share this, and I want to thank y'all for listening. That was very hard for me to open up about, and it's been 6 years. It's been some time, but I thank the Most High for my life. All right, and yes.